Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by guitar-Zoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to guitar-Zoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine.
Now we're going to dive further into the world of blues. We've talked about pentatonic expansions, the major scale and how the major and minor are related to each other, chord chasing, creating melody, all these different kinds of things. Well, now we're going to look at the bizarre uniqueness of blues and how blues works for soloing. And of course, we can implement this into rock solos and country solos and all sorts of different things. But basically what we're going to do here is we're going to go back and touch on some of the things that we already did and then expand on that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to start with the minor pentatonic scale and then add in some of those extensions that I told you about earlier, and then we'll keep going from there. So we have minor pentatonic with that blues note or blue note. And it's always important to really be aware of that blue note. You can call it a blues note or a blue note, it doesn't matter, but because it really does give the blues flavor. And you don't have to use it all the time, but to throw it in there is really, really important. And then we talked about the major sixth and we talked about the ninth and how those can add some flavor into the blues. But now we're going to really learn why that is. We're going to study this a little bit deeper. So ultimately, if you were playing a minor blues progression, which I am going to give you a backing track or jam track that's strictly minor blues. If you were playing in minor blues, you would want to approach it from a minor perspective using minor pentatonic or maybe natural minor, right? Aeolian, where we're using that minor six we talked about. There's lots of different things we can do with it, but minor blues, which we hear far less than major blues, but minor blues would be more hearing that minor sound, okay? Now, blues in general is based off the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords in any key that you're in. So if you're in the key of A, you've got A, B, C, D, E, A, D, and E. And if you know your theory, you know what that is already. If you don't know your theory, the 1 is always located here on the 6th string. The 4 is always located below it, and the 5 is 2 frets higher. So if you were in the key of G, 1 would be here, 4 would be here, 5 would be here. If you were in the key of F, 1 would be here, 4 would be here, 5 would be here. Okay? Regardless of whether it's major or minor, it'll work the same way. If you had a minor blues, 1 would be here, 4 would be here, and 5 would be here, and they'd all be minor. If you had major blues, 1 would be here, 4 would be here, and 5 would be here, and they'd all be major. Okay? So, again, blues can do all kinds of different things, and you can have songs that aren't completely blues, but they're bluesy, right? You think of like Aerosmith or AC/DC or different bands like that. They have a lot of bluesy songs, ZZ Top, but they're not necessarily just blues. Okay, blues is usually that 1-4-5 progression.
If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, go to guitar-Zoom.com and consider becoming a premium member. There are 3 memberships to choose from. VIP, which gives you instant access to a library of short but powerful courses as well as new bite-sized lessons each month. There's also Play Songs that gives you step-by-step lessons so you can learn to play your favorite songs fast. And finally, there's Masterclass, university-level training on everything from soloing to music theory, from blues to home recording. For more info about these memberships and all the premium courses available to you, go to guitar-Zoom.com. Now back to the podcast.
So when we're dealing with a minor blues sound, which sounds pretty much like this, I'm going to go to a clean channel here. It's a beautiful sound. Okay, I love minor blues. So when we listen to that, logically, if we were playing in minor blues, we would play minor pentatonic over the top, and it's going to work perfectly. Okay, we can still add that blues note in there, and it's going to sound just fine. Okay, but if you dissect those chords a little bit further, you're going to notice that if you look at this chord A minor, right out of the pentatonic, works just perfectly. If we look at that D minor, look at this right here. See that note right there? That's the minor third of this D minor chord. That note right there, if you look, is that minor 6 we were talking about. So that shows you right there that that really is the better selection of the 2 6s that we've talked about before. Okay? So sometimes the answers are right there in the chord progression that we're playing that tells us which scale we should be using. So if you were just using pentatonic, it would be perfectly fine. But if you do decide to bump up to the diatonic, or pentatonic expansion, if you will, adding in that minor 6th, it's going to sound really nice. And again, we're going to do some jams in just a little bit using minor blues, but I want to explain to you the kind of the rationale behind all of this. So if you were using, let's just summarize this whole thing. If you were playing minor blues, you could use minor pentatonic. You could use minor pentatonic with the blue note. You could use minor pentatonic with the blue note and add in the minor 6, and it would sound wonderful. You can use all of those things and also add in the 9th, and they're all going to sound great in that minor perspective of using those 3 minor chords. Where it gets weird is when you play major blues, which we hear all the time, right? Major blues would be like, any kind of rhythm that you're using, but you're using an A major and a D major, E major, or they're all seventh chords, or add some ninth in there, or different kinds of things like that. So the logic would be, okay, I'm in major blues, so I should use major pentatonic. And that's absolutely true. Major pentatonic is going to sound great. Okay, adding the fourth, adding the minor seventh. It's going to sound great. All of those things are going to sound great. But what you're going to notice is that the major blues or major pentatonic, adding all those notes in, still misses an element of blues. So that's where we want to try and add in, again, a blues note. And you'll notice right away when I add in, now again, remember, minor pentatonic, major pentatonic, I move down 3 frets, right? But I'm still going to add that blue note in the same place that I did before. Right there. It just functions a little differently, but it sounds cool. So in order for us to really get the major pentatonic to sound bluesy, we really need to add that. Okay? And you might even kind of notice that it's got a little bit of a, country or rockabilly flavor to it, and it does. That's major pentatonic for you. Okay, so again, logic says if we're in a major chord progression playing 1-4-5, logically we should be playing major pentatonic with its extensions or expansions along with it, which is true. But here's the kicker. In blues or anything that you want to have that blues rock and roll flavor, we enter a new world, which I call the theory of rock and roll, which doesn't make any sense at all, but it sounds great. And what happens here is when we play minor pentatonic and the isms of minor pentatonic over the major chord progression, it sounds like blues. It sounds like rock and roll. Now, playing minor pentatonic over major doesn't make any sense, but when you do it, it sounds great. Okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just take a break here, and I'm going to play a little bit of a minor blues progression, of a major blues progression, and then over the blues progression, I'm going to switch between both major pentatonic and minor pentatonic. And again, I'm not going to get crazy. Maybe I'll add some blue notes in there, some different things like that, so you can just hear the difference a little bit and you can mess with those. So the first one's going to be minor pentatonic, and the second one is going to be major pentatonic. Next time on the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast. Hey, Steve here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today what we're going to be doing is looking at a kind of fun chromatic style lick that you can play slower for bluesy stuff, faster for, rock or metal stuff. And it's just really interesting because it's not something you'd normally think of playing with your fingers. So what we're going to do here, we're going to be in the key of E minor. We're going to go up to the 19th fret. We're going to play 19, 18, 17. And then we're going to turn around and play 15, 16, 17. So we have... Okay, so the first step is really trying to get comfortable of connecting those together. Okay. Then the next step then is we're going to connect that to this part right here. We're going to go 15, 16, but then 17 on the second string. So we have... Hey, Steve Stine here from guitarzoom.com, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your feedback means more to me than you'll ever know. And be sure to check out my YouTube channels where you'll find over 1,000 videos to help you with your guitar playing. Thanks again for listening. Stay positive, keep playing, and keep having fun.
If you'd like some help with your guitar playing but you're not sure how to get started, go to guitarzoom.com and look for the Help Me Choose survey. By answering a few simple questions, you'll get Steve's personal recommendation of the perfect course for you. All this and more is available for you at GuitarZoom.com.